Good morning. I've been trying to get back into doing these videos. It's sort of middle of November here in the UK, and it's actually a sunny day. It's been quite grey recently. A fair bit of aircraft noise about. Apologies for that. But I wanted to talk to you today about something called plant blindness, and I've just been walking in relationship to the plants, and I guess one of the things at this time of year, there aren't a huge number of flowers about, and plant blindness is this tendency that we have to just not notice the plants. They kind of become part of the scenery, and I was walking, balancing two things, getting to know sort of botanical terms, and that sort of being an aid to knowing the names of the plants. So there are sort of terms to describe how the leaves are arranged, and sort of how the sort of patterns, the parts of the flowers, the parts of the plants, etc., so that you can differentiate between them, and particularly between species that are pretty close in resemblance to one another, which is very useful. But I also noticed that our brains have this very quick way of seeing. They immediately I can sort of walk past and sort of label, the brambles and the cow parsley and the ivy and so on, and sort of stop really seeing them as they are. So just coming down. And one of the things in science that you're sort of really encouraged towards is noticing in a lot of detail and describing in a lot of detail, which is a wonderful thing. But I'm actually going to invite the opportunity just to get to know these plants, out of their flowering season, and in a more, maybe a less technical way, just to sort of really observe the patterns, but without necessarily knowing the labels. So just noticing, for instance, here that we have these kind of branching arrangements, and again there would be technical terms for those, and things which you'd be looking at about these patterns, but perhaps just noticing the patterns in the way that you would have done as a child, and sort of bringing a really childlike curiosity, and then just kind of noticing perhaps if there's a sense of character about this particular plant, and I believe this is a cow parsley. Just really spending time with them and noticing how they make you feel, noticing how they move in the wind. Each plant, and just noticing the ivy behind. This is the same breeze, but there's differences in their leaves, differences in the way that they kind of dance. So just noticing that, noticing all the different colours, and the way that they're in community together. Really noticing how they can kind of coexist and this kind of interbeing. What plants are doing well together, and different stages of life cycles. We've got these dead leaves, and we've got the new growth, and we've got these sort of old flower heads as well, which are always lovely to just see that and notice that as well. And one of the things with plants is noticing these kind of repeating patterns, how the stem patterns sort of repeat in the leaf branching and in the leaves themselves, and how the kind of patterns of the plant, of the flower, of the fruit, you know, how all those things sort of change into one another, you know, where there's sort of common, this kind of common pattern. It can be really fascinating, and, you know, something you can take a lot of time. I mean, these cow parsley have this kind of feathery appearance, you know, and it's the same with carrot leaves. You have to be very, very careful with this particular family, because there are some which are definitely edible and some which, even to touch, pretty terrible combination with you know, human skin and digestive systems and so on. So I happen to know this area very well and know these plants, and so I'm reasonably confident that I'm safe. I'm not going to be eating anything today. I'm reasonably sort of confident that I'm safe with these particular plants to touch them, especially with a gloved hand. Anyway, it's important just to note that you know, as we're getting to know plants, it's good to know which ones are okay to touch and which ones are the kind of giant hogweeds that you want to give a sort of really respectful boundary. And of course, for those of us that are that way inclined, actually, one of the ways of knowing is to ask the plants themselves. But I appreciate that's not everybody's worldview. So, I'll leave it there with that invitation.